In this world, it's driven by certifications. The people want to know that if you're trained in something, you really are trained in something. And so this lecture is about the PMP and what that entails. And so the Project Management Institute, the PMI, has all different kinds of certifications. And so you need to figure out which one is most appropriate for you. Having a college degree is definitely an advantage. The requirements are much less. But what it comes down to, though, is that there are three parts: that you need a degree, you need to show that you have experience, and then you take the exam. This class is not an exam class. It might feel like it at times, but what it comes down to is this class is geared towards creating the mentality and thinking like a project manager. And so there are lots of classes online or that you could take which are strictly about preparing you for an exam. It's sort of like taking the SAT in high school. And there are different techniques and processes that they focus on. And there's a lot of memorization for this kind of study and to take this kind of exam. But on the other hand, there are lots of different study guides. What the study guides do is they tell you, summarize to you, what are the overall knowledge areas that you have to study. But also they focus on processes. And a lot of the testing is about processes. You understand the inputs, how you transform it, and what are the outputs. For example, I have a machine. If it gets too hot, it will break down. So the inputs are measuring temperature. The tools and techniques are, if it goes above a certain threshold, then you have an algorithm that shuts it down. And so then the output could be it sends a warning to someone or something like that. We don't go over every little part. For example, what is a risk register? And so here's an example, because you will need to know the parts and understand it for a PMP. Here's another example. Basically, everything gets an ID. You need a number to identify it is, what kind of risk, the impact. A lot of this looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? And I talk about residual risk, meaning even though you mitigate everything, how much risk do you still have? For example, you can do a lot for drugs, but every drug on the planet will kill somebody. Now, the odds of that might be 1 in 2 million, but the point is that it's not zero. And so severity might still be very high. The exams that you've taken have come out of the book, but don't necessarily cover all the topics that you're going to see in the PMP. And that's why you have to look it up. And for example, the expectancy theory of motivation. And what is that? It's a belief that if you set standards for people, then they will work well. Without it, then people won't. So if we look at this, poor performance is a natural outcome of poor training. Managers should not expect too much of workers. Motivation to act is linked to an outcome that is expected to have value. And managers should expect employees who pay more work for harder. So C is obviously the answer. This came off of a PMP. And the thing is, if you don't know what expectancy theory is, then you couldn't solve it. But if you know what it is, then it's actually pretty easy. For those of you in grad school who had to take the GRE exam, there's, the math and verbal part, but then there's a topic exam. And that was extremely difficult in engineering because I covered every topic in engineering. Fortunately, I had a background in mechanical, chemical, and electrical. So I actually did reasonably well. But the funniest thing about that exam is that the electrical questions and the chemical questions were like super easy, but on topics like aerospace industry or materials industry, I had a hard time with those because at that time I didn't have a background in it. This class will prepare you about 75% of the way through. It's estimated that 80% is passing. So a lot of it is going to be on you. So I posted my notes of how I studied. And basically I had a list because instead of doing flashcards, which I thought were too long, cumbersome, I could basically just look at the question And then if I knew the answer right away, then I could just look at the next one, the next one, next one. Or if I didn't know it, then I could quickly look over and see what the answer is. But I can separate those two enough where I could be able to watch it. Anyway, let's see, in the 5 years I've been teaching this class, about 7 people have taken the PMP, and all 7 passed. So, good news. Anyway, if you do choose to pursue it, good luck to you.